You're listening to the Home Staging Show podcast. I'm your host, Cindy Lin. This is a show where we talk about all things real estate, home staging, and selling your home to live and to sell. Welcome back to Season 8. This is Episode 7. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. And on today's show, I am super excited because I'm interviewing Anthea, who is a total rock star in the home staging industry. Anthea Click is one of my favorite people, and it's been incredible to watch her business grow since we both started our businesses around the same time. And on today's show, we talk a lot about everything, the growth in the real estate industry, how home staging has changed over the years, the real estate market in Nashville, and how she got started in the home staging industry, and the way she expanded her business to include staging Airbnbs, renting out to production companies, real estate agents, and then also other real estate stagers as well, and how to differentiate your listings from the others in the marketplace, as well as differentiating yourself from other stagers in the market, and also building multiple streams of income as a home stager. So a lot of juicy details today. And in the beginning, we also chatted about my personal updates. I'm actually living in London this month, and I'm learning the real estate market here. And we talk a little bit about real estate in Paris as well. So a lot of fun details on the show today. So for those of you who don't know who Anthea is, after several years as a real estate agent, Anthea Click realized the need for staging in her local market. It was over 10 years ago when Anthea and her husband Corey started FP Staging and Design in Nashville. With nothing more than just an idea, a willingness to work, and the guts to go for it. Together, they have built the company from their garage to a 14,000 square feet facility with multiple streams of income. Through her experience with the ups and downs and being a small business owner, she has a passion to give back to the home staging industry by helping others to obtain their success. I think she's absolutely just an amazing stager and also an amazing human being. Her generosity in the industry makes her just an amazing, amazing resource. So I'm super excited to have her on the show today. So without further ado, let's start the show. How are you? Oh my God, I'm glad we can get connected.
I am fantastic, and I am so excited to talk to you. I got to tell you, I have a total, I'm sweating over here because it's like celebrity. I just have followed you for so long in your career, and I have just completely admired what you have done. I absolutely love what you do for the home staging industry. So I'm all in cold sweats over here.
No, are you serious? Oh my God, little old me. That's so strange. That's so flattering because you're like a superstar to me. I'm like, I don't think anyone knows me.
Oh, that is so not true. Are you kidding? You're like one of the biggest stars in this industry. That's just amazing to me.
That is funny. I've never heard people say that to me. That is amazing. That means a lot to me actually coming from you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, mutual admiration for sure.
Oh my God. I can't believe I'm so flattered. You're making me blush. I can't believe it.
Well, good. So you're in London.
Yeah, I'm actually living in London for the moment. This is really crazy, but I actually I'm going to graduate school in the fall here in London. And so I'm just test running potential places I can live right now till the end of this month. And then it's kind of insane because I think the London real estate market is really different than in the States in the sense that there's so the sheer population, it's so huge. I mean, yeah, it's insane. And so it's really interesting to be kind of house hunting. And I end up picking this new development that's in zone 4. But the thing is, it's because it's right next to the tube station. So it goes down to downtown really fast. But yeah, it's really expensive to live out here. And it's kind of fascinating to watch the real estate market. And staging is actually growing in London. And so I think it's kind of interesting to be here now to watch it grow. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of strange. Yeah, because
I can imagine. I mean, it really is a totally different world. It really is.
It is. Their market's really different, and it's I don't know how it is in Nashville. I mean, in San Francisco, it used to be very neighborhood based, where every neighborhood has a very distinctive personality. But now, I think because the startups and the hipster culture, unfortunately, like the neighborhoods become a bit more homogeneous, where the trends kind of level off a bit, you know, like so. But London is still very much distinctive because it's such a big. I mean, historically, it used to be different, like villages basically come together in this big city, and so within like boroughs, like they have like mini cities, really. So it's really fascinating how things are run very differently, and their real estate sales system is different here also. Because, for example, if you buy a historical property, if you want to fix it up, it has to be done according to the historical way. So if they used to mix chicken poop into the wall to make that wall, you have to do the same thing if you were to fix it up. Yeah, it's really insane because that's the other thing too, is if you live in a historical property and you want to remodel your home, let's say you want to knock down this wall, you have to get an inspector to come out of the property first to figure out, to analyze what is the content of the wall. And so then they have to recreate it. Or you have to get approved, you can do certain things to your property. And yeah, it's really insane. And I didn't know this.
That is, you know, we have like historical overlay neighborhoods. And basically our rules are you can do anything you want to the inside as long as it does not change the integrity of the outside. As long as the outside remains the same look, you can do whatever you want on the inside.
Yeah, I think it's similar in San Francisco because there's so many Victorian homes. But yeah, that totally makes sense because because how you would live in modern day, it doesn't make sense to live in like a Victorian home anymore.
Absolutely. And, with all the cut up rooms and
Yeah, totally. And it's just really insane. Here it's no, they have to follow certain like traditions and stuff. And also here you can also just buy the box. You just buy the house, but not the land itself. Like the government owns the land. And so it's a bit different. Yeah. And it's insane. Yeah. It's just, it's very different than what we're used to in the States. And I didn't know this either because if you're a renter, for example, every month you have to pay council tax. We don't have that in the States. So it's a bit different. And council tax can range, I mean, if it was a 1-bedroom apartment, it can be like £150 per month. So a year, that's, you know, more than £1,000. So it's kind of fascinating that they have a really different system than we do.
Wow. That's fascinating. And it's completely different to work in it and live in it and just experience that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because you don't know these things until you start working in this environment. I didn't know about the historical property part until I took an interior design class here. And the teacher was saying that, they were working on these historical homes. And then they found out, for example, like the wall was made back in the day, it was 50% chicken poop. And so they had to recreate. And also back then they had lead and paint, you know, they're using all sorts of chemical to mix paint. Right. So it's actually really not very like eco-friendly and also not very health-friendly because like in the States, like lead paint is basically banned. If you live in an older home where they use lead paint in the 1950s, you get a disclosure about it. So you don't sue the landlord, you know, for or the previous homeowner for not letting you know that they were lead paint. So different folks, different strokes, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
It's really interesting. I'm really fascinated by it. So I'm really interested in getting to learn more about home staging in Europe. And it's interesting because this week I just had a conversation. This is not set in stone yet, but I just had a conversation with a university here to teach home staging as a short course because there's a huge amount of growing interest now. And they feel that they want to kind of expand their interior design offering, because more and more people, especially in London, in this market, a lot of people do Airbnb homes. So staging is actually perfect leeway for them to break into that.
Yeah.
A lot of
oh, that's so awesome.
that. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's a really weird time, I feel like, in my life. And I don't know, I never thought I would be moving to a foreign country and like to potentially actually teach in a university. That's
excited. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is weird.
Pretty awesome.
It is weird. So, but I mean, I'm single, so it makes my life a lot easier.
Yeah, and this is the time to enjoy your life, and go do different things. If you don't have obligations back in the States where you can be flexible and you can go live in a foreign country for a year or 2 years or whatever. I think it's so cool, because I know you were in Paris for a while.
Yeah, I was studying photography there.
And you were doing like a lot of the like photo styling and that sort of thing. I know that. What a really cool, fun experience, though. I mean, just to experience the different cultures and just see things from different points of view and really understand just how different people live different ways. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's really interesting to look at different cultures. But at the end of the day, it's all actually also the same. Even though there's a lot of differences, people still want to sell house for more money. And Europe, for the longest time, really did not embrace staging. And now they really, really want to catch up, really. And so it's really interesting to see how home staging is being spread here. I mean, there's an association now, and there's more online courses now here in Europe. And I think it's even more complicated here in a sense where in the States, it's fairly easy for somebody like a Stage Homes or IHOPs to really push nationwide, or Canada, because we all speak the same language. In Europe, it's completely different. Every different country has different rules and sets of regulations and different culture and custom. Like when I first moved to Paris, I was looking for a place to rent. And because I'm single, so I naturally look for a studio or a one-bedroom house or a one-bedroom apartment. And what I've noticed is when you look at listing for studios, a lot of them, instead of showing a photo of the full bathroom, they show a picture of the toilet. Not like a pretty shot of a toilet either. It's like a toilet, with the lid up and then like shoot into the bowl kind of thing. Like you see, like a whole picture is like a whole frame of toilet. And what I found out is because that most people who rent in the studio market, a lot of those listings are actually because Paris is quite old, so there's a lot of historical buildings. So a lot of these older listings were converted from old servants' rooms where they had no indoor plumbing back in the day. So when I was living in Paris, for example, my flat was like 3 different servants' quarters combined. So the previous homeowner, what they did was they turned one of the quarter into a bathroom, and then the other half of it like to become a kitchen, and the rest of it to put together for living room and the bedroom. And that's why when I was living there, I find it really odd because we have a bathroom in the hallway, like a toilet in the hallway. So I was like, why is there like, from America, you're like, why is there a toilet in the hallway, like on the floor, right? And then I realized actually people use it because I hear it, sometimes. And I see the light come out because from my window you can see the side. This is like an L shape of the building. And so I was like, why is that toilet being used? And I realized actually some flats on our floor did not have an indoor toilet. They just had a really basic shower unit, like a shower head, but they didn't have a toilet. And that's why a lot of listings for studios, they turn that into like an advantage, basically, like a feature of the studio.
Wow.
That they have indoor plumbing.
We don't realize how spoiled we are in the States, do we?
No, it's really fascinating because also, if you get European countries where the plumbing is really old, like there are a lot of things that don't make sense to us as Americans because, for example, some toilets you go in, they have to put a step up. So you're like walk up a step to like go on the toilet, to sit on the toilet. And a lot of it has to do with sewage because old plumbing pipes. So they had to elevate it to make sure there's enough pressure for everything to go down.
Huh.
Yeah.
I would have never known any of that, but you just discovered all that.
Yeah, it's really unpleasant, but very necessary if you're working design in Europe. And it's funny because if you ever go to Paris or London and you see these giant pipes on the exterior of the house on older buildings, those usually actually were sewage pipes. Which is something we don't really have in the States. In the States, everything is put away very neatly. Yeah. So when I was living in Paris, I was kind of like, I can understand why Black Plague started here. Because it just, in the older communities, you literally can feel like why back then like hygiene was such an issue. Because the way the house was constructed.
Wow, that's just fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. See, my hot button is travel. It doesn't matter where I'm going. My bags are always packed, you know? I just absolutely love it. And that's what fires me up. And so anytime I have an excuse to go somewhere, I do. And we're just on a mission. Like we've done a lot of traveling lately just within the States. And so we're starting to talk about what if we took a Mediterranean cruise and doing things like that. And so I just absolutely love exploring like that. So what a fun time in your life. That's super awesome.
Yeah, that is a really fun part of, I mean, it's weird. Like I really feel like life is a venture. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So fun.
Anyway,
so fun.
Enough about me. So let's talk about you. I'm excited to interview you. You're such a superstar.
Oh, thank you. You know, honestly, Cindy, I feel like I just get up every day and I go to work and I just get up and do it all over again. And sometimes, you know, when you're in the trenches, you don't realize what's going on around you and outside of that. And, you know, here I am waking up 10 years later, 12 years later going, wow, we took something from an idea all the way to now we've got this huge building and we've got furniture coming out of our ears. And it's just absolutely nuts to me. But that's what I find so fascinating is the fact that we have the power to take an idea and we can put some time and energy and effort into it and how it manifests into the physical and how we can create our future. And I just absolutely love that. You know, just being able to build something. I just love seeing creation. And I think it is so fun and it is so cool.
I agree with that. And I love what you've done because your business has really changed since we first met each other.
Yeah.
So tell us, like, how did you get into staging and what is your real estate market like? Okay.
Well, I got into staging. I was actually a real estate agent. And I had had a baby, and I decided that I wanted to stay home with my little one, and that lasted about 3 months because I was going stir crazy. And I decided that I wanted to get back into real estate, but I didn't want to do general residential. So I started working for my husband's company. He was a home builder at the time, and we both ended up getting laid off. Just a few months later, the builder ended up closing his doors. And we were literally sitting on the couch one evening and watching HGTV. It was a staging show. I think it was Staged to Sell. And my husband says, I think you can do that. And you never know the power of your words. And what happened with that is that actually just kind of stuck with me. And I couldn't let that idea go. And so I really started studying the industry. And at the time, there really wasn't much going on. The industry, you know, was so young. But I found a course that was happening down in Atlanta. So I went down there and started the business. And so I stopped selling real estate And I started with redesign and going into people's homes and working with what they have. And then our market crashed, which was back in 08, 09. And so we just struggled through that. And our market, thankfully, did not dip as strongly as some of the other markets, like in California or in Florida or Vegas. And we kept clawing and fighting through. And now our market it's hot. Nashville has been named, I've seen 3 different reports, and they've all ended up being in the top 10 real estate markets in the country. So we have a lot of new construction that ends up getting sold before we can actually get to stage it. But it's a really healthy, really vibrant market. And we have everything from our market being hot with the first-time home buyers, as well as our luxury market. The $1 million plus properties are super hot right now. And Nashville is just growing. And there's a lot of outside influences that are coming in, and a lot of big development companies. And so we're trying to keep up with demand right now, and it's a pretty fun place to be.
I think that is absolutely amazing. It's really, really interesting to hear your background, because I love that you came from a real estate agent point of view. And I feel like a lot of times, I think a lot of new stagers feel overwhelmed because they simply don't know how to talk to a real estate agent. So it's really great that you came from that background.
Yeah, and I thought that all the realtors that I knew would work with me. And that was not the case at all. I literally had to start from scratch because everybody thought of me as a real estate agent. And sometimes people were a little threatened by it. They thought I was going to take their clients, which that would never have even entered my mind, to try and sell a house as a real estate agent. Home staging for us has just been absolutely a wonderful business. I started a company, and then about a year after that, my husband came to work with me full time. And we have both been plugging away full time ever since. And it's been a very wild ride, one I'm very appreciative of. I absolutely love the industry. I love the people who are in it. And I feel like there is such a spirit of giving and sharing. And I absolutely love that.
I love that. I mean, I really, really love that. I think you're one of my favorite people in the industry, actually, because, people like you and Edie, I think really, really embrace the different changes the industry goes through. And it's really encouraging of the new stagers as well, and as well as supportive existing stagers too. Because I think one of the difficulty working in real estate is that there's like this weird competitiveness to it. Like you said, a lot of real estate agents feel that, if I have you stage in my house, what if you steal my client? And so a lot of that creates these kind of invisible fear and made it, in a way, a very hostile working environment.
I totally agree with you. I feel like there's an abundance of business, and there truly is. I don't necessarily want to work with every potential client. I'm not a good fit for everyone. And, I just wish there was somebody there for me when I was starting 12 years ago saying, hey, this is how you do it. These are the things that I learned. But there wasn't anybody who was a dinosaur at the time, who could give a hand up. And I really feel for a lot of the stagers. I feel like it's extremely expensive to get into the vacant staging market. Furniture is not cheap, and then warehousing it and all of that, and then just running a business is extremely expensive. But we have started renting our furniture to some of the local stagers in town, and they may stage 2 or 3 houses a month, and they're totally fine with that. And they don't want the kind of business that I want. And that's fine, but we can all work together, and I can help them by opening up our furniture and allowing them to utilize that and make some money. Because some of them are like stay-at-home moms, or they just want to work part-time, and they have a love and a passion for it. They just don't want to have a driving business, and that's okay. So I feel like we all work together, and it works out well. we tend to pass a lot of referrals back and forth to the girls in my chapter, my staging chapter. And it works really, really well. It's just, we're all a great resource for each other. And I really love the fact that the home stagers here in Nashville have really come together and are really trying to move the industry forward. And that's a lot of fun to be a part of that energy.
I love that. I want to come over to your chapter.
I would love that. We would absolutely love that.
No, I wanted to do a tour, like to take my podcast on the road and then to film and interview different stagers around the country. And I don't know if I have the time to do it, but I would love to be able to do that, to actually come visit you, because I love what you do. And then we start our business around the same time, and it's really interesting to see how different our business has become. And your business really has grown. So for those people who are not familiar with your business, can you talk a little bit what kind of service you offer and what kind of client do you work with?
So we focus now on the luxury market. So our sweet spot is the $1 million plus homes. It's what I absolutely love. It definitely did not start out that way. We started out actually doing redesign, and I discovered how much that's not a good fit for me. I don't like getting involved in other people's stuff. And I also found out that when I would rent furniture to occupy properties, that my stuff would get torn up. And so we changed gears, and we started just working strictly with vacant properties. I started out really with the little $150,000 properties that were like rehabs. And so we started from really the entry level properties and just started building a name. And we just worked one house at a time and started building an inventory. And then I discovered that when you get into the luxury market, the sofas weigh the same, the rugs are the same. It's just more and a little bit more expensive. And I don't mind that at all. But I really enjoy working with that clientele. And so not only do we do vacant staging, we have also, because of the space that we have in our building, we have started, we have a small showroom, and I was getting a lot of requests from people as they're going through our properties wanting to buy our furniture. And at the time I would always say no, because I didn't have the ability to replace it quickly. That was really before we were buying wholesale at markets. And now that we do that, we decided that this is a time where we can easily replace that stuff. And so let's sell it. So we decided, let's pick some of our favorite pieces that we absolutely love that get requested a lot from our stagings, and let's create what we call a lifestyle collection. And so I get out there and showcase it, and it's a whole bunch of fun. And it's like you can get the SP look in your home, and you don't have to be selling it, and I don't have to come and do it. You can just buy some of our pieces, and it's gone over really well, and it's been a fun thing to do. It's a totally new venture for us. So we do that, and then also just sharing our inventory with our stager friends here in town to help them build a business, because I'm a big fan of entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurship. I love people who are willing to go for something, who have the guts to go try it. And anything I can do to help and support my industry, I'm all in favor, because when we all win when we work together. My quote competition next to me really truly isn't my competition, because when they do well, I do well. So my goal is, years ago, when they were selling homes, very rarely would you ever have a home inspection done. And, when I got into real estate, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, and now you're absolutely insane if you buy a house without having a home inspection. I would love to have our industry slotted in there in the real estate transaction as well, where you are absolutely insane if you try to sell a house and not have it staged. the importance of it is so much. It just brings such a huge return, and just moves those houses so much faster, and everybody wins in that situation.
I totally agree with that. I mean, staging has grown so much, I think, in the past 12 years since I've been in business, 12, 13 years. And it's changed. I think it's now, in most markets, I think in the States, it's really something that sellers would know automatically if they're going to put their home on the market. They have to do some sort of staging. They have to get a stager involved. They have to ask about it with their real estate agent. And so I think the industry is changing for the better for that. Because it's funny to explain to people here in Europe, they did not really quite understand what home staging is. But the younger people get it. So I told you that I was in an interview to teach a short course on home staging here in London. And when I was interviewing the coordinators, a colleague was sitting right next to us, and I noticed he was listening. It turned out his parents are in the process of putting their parents' house on the market. So his grandmother just passed away. They've been in that home for 50 years, and they did not do anything. And the parents are like super traditional. They were really resisting to do anything, any changes. So the house was on the market forever. They couldn't sell it. And so the son came in, he was roughly our age or maybe a little bit younger. And then he was saying that, we should really spruce it up, do some, like change out the appliances and all this stuff. And so he was really interested in staging, because for the older generations people, they don't really feel like they have a lot of pushback, because they're like, we're selling the house. Why do we need to put more money into it? Right. But the younger people see it completely different now, because the way millennials are, the way they function in the world now, in a way change how we view the world, how our buying habits are. I mean, people are looking at how listings on apps now on smartphones. Like when they're bored, they're waiting for the bus or they're waiting for a meeting, they're looking at listings on their phone. And so everyone's buying habit is really changed by all these advancement in technology. So the attitude has changed. And so it's really interesting to see how Europe is reacting to that now. They're starting to learn that this is a really great way to package your house for sale. Whereas in the States now, where it's pretty much a norm for us to stage a house when we go on the market.
Yes, I completely agree with that. I feel like our market in Nashville, I feel like we're still a little bit behind the times. It's still a lot of education and really getting the agents on board. And we're always behind in the design trends, and so we tend to be a little bit behind, the rest of the country in a lot of that. But I will say that steam is definitely picking up. And it's interesting, too, what you're saying about the millennials and how our consumer buying habits are really changing. What I'm starting to really get into is I have a handful of millennials on my team, and, they're really the selfie generation. And
yes, I hate it.
What they love. Right. I know those selfies. But what I am noticing is they're loving the lifestyle photography. So when we go in and we stage a property, we're going in and we're doing lifestyle shoots with it as well. So, and it's a huge benefit for us in the way that it helps us to sell our furniture as well. But also, I think people are wanting to connect with people. And I think that's what technology has actually taken away from us. We're so wrapped up in our electronics that we tend to a lot of times miss that human connection. And so I'm seeing a big rise in the lifestyle photography world. And I feel like that's where real estate is moving to. I feel like we're going to start seeing these people within this real estate photography. And I think if it's done well, it's going to be a hit. If it's not done well, I think it's going to be a huge bomb. But we'll see how it turns out.
No, I very much agree with that because I used to work on photo shoots for big lifestyle companies, like Target ads, Google, when they're selling their tablets and whatnot. Because Bay Area is really full. I mean, Pottery Barn is headquartered in the Bay Area, so I work on those shoots as well. And it really is very much about lifestyle. For them to sell a tablet or a phone, when you look at a commercial, you don't just see a picture of a phone. You see someone holding the phone, using the phone in a context, in a lifestyle. And it's very targeted, like they want, like, for example, if you get a brief, it would be something like, we want a family of mixed races, or, depending on what market they're attracting, maybe it's more urban. So it's like a city setting. So people need to be a bit hipper, the trends need to be on fashion, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And like the brief is very much about what the lifestyle that potential target market is doing. And that's what we're doing in staging as well. But I do agree with you because I do see now there's a trend tilting toward having more lifestyle kind of videos and ads and print ads. But again, it comes down to execution, because a lot of times people don't realize that if you work on a shoot for Pottery Barn, for example, oftentimes those are 5-figure shoots. And in real estate, the budget is very different. You don't have producers, you don't have photographers, you don't have actors and models who do this basically for a living all the time. So the quality of it is a bit different. So I've seen many different attempts like you, and the execution has fallen a bit short. So that's an unfortunate part. But I agree with you. I do think there's going to be more and more lifestyle, especially with Instagram, like IGTV and stories, that kind of behind the scenes stuff is super popular right now.
Yeah, and I think we're just on the early phases of it. And I think, just like staging was awful in the beginning, I mean, you would see things that you could tell people bought from yard sales and just beat up. And I'm very grateful that the industry has really evolved. But I think that's what's happening with lifestyle. It's gonna start out kind of clunky and awkward and weird, and it's gonna start to get refined and fine-tuned and really sharp looking. Like when you see these major companies such as Disney, for example, they do lifestyle tremendous. And so I like to see what they do, and I like to utilize their brain and learn from them. And they can sell a magical vacation in one picture. And I think when we pour some time and energy and effort and we pay attention to what the big boys do, we can mimic what they do, and we can have the same kind of success.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that is so key. Today is really about selling that lifestyle. We talk about that in staging, really, it's to stage according to buyer's lifestyle. But now more than important, I think it's becoming the trend in just general everyday buying behavior. People want to buy into that lifestyle. Because I've been looking at places to rent in London, for example, for moving here, and the newer development is all very much about lifestyle, about community, about these values that a lot of millennials feel very important. They want appliances that are eco-friendly. They want broadband internet because their work lifestyle has changed as well. A lot of people now work remotely from home. So those are the things that we have to understand as stagers or as real estate agents, as sellers too, that these are the pain points these potential target markets are looking for. And people want to belong in a community because, like right now, co-working has been popular for a long time. And now there's something called co-living. So it's basically, you're sharing all the common spaces and you have your own private room within the building, within the complex. So I'm living in one in London right now. And it's very fascinating because, like you said, technology, especially in a town like London, it's really hard for new people to come in and make new relationships, especially as an adult. If you're not in a school or work environment, if you're a freelancer or self-employed, it's very difficult to build new friendship or network. And so a lot of people end up living in co-living space like this, where they have events every day, they have networking events, workshops on entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
yoga, and whatnot. So your own building, your own living space become its own living community. So the lifestyle trends are definitely shifting. So I think it's really important for us who work in real estate to really understand what today's buyers are looking for.
Absolutely. And it's the human connection. And anytime that we can bring that in, people can relate to it. And anytime they can relate to it, they're interested and you have their attention. And that's pretty exciting. But we have to understand that. And so to be able to present that, and how do I make that human connection? That's what I'm always thinking about when we go into these homes. How can I sell this? How can I get them to fall in love with it? How can I get them to pay more attention to some areas of the home and maybe not pay attention to those negative areas? So to be able to do that, I think that's what, for us, that's what drives us. And how are we going to connect with that buyer? That's huge for us.
That's amazing. So when you're going into a home, what is your thought process? Let's say you just got a new listing and then you're going in prepared to stage it. So what would your thought process be to prepare to stage this house?
I always start with who the target buyer is. I'm paying attention to the neighborhood. If I'm not familiar with the neighborhood, I'm going to do some research on it. I'm going to find out who's living over there. I'm going to pay attention to it. And like you're saying in London, like every little neighborhood that we have here is very unique and they have their own personality. So I start with who that target buyer is and I work backwards from there. So I think about things like, what is that person going to read? So I'm going to have those kind of magazines out. I'm thinking about, even the kind of colors that they're going to be drawn to. You know, obviously, if it's let's say it's a first floor flat, I'm not going to be necessarily doing it in soft feminine colors because generally women like to live higher up as a safety issue. You know, they like the second floors and that sort of thing. So I'm going to do something probably a little bit more masculine to attract that bachelor. So things like that are super important to us, and that's where we start. So it's who is our target buyer, then we start working off of colors and things that we try to get inside their brain and what they would like.
That's really amazing. I love asking like different stagers how their process is. And I want to ask you too, because we started staging around the same time, and in the beginning staging really wasn't that popular, and it sounds like you're still getting a bit of pushback once in a while. So how do you deal with pushback from clients when it comes to staging?
Well, I have really stepped up my game in the way that we present our quotes. So I'm always looking for strategic partnerships with agents. I don't need to work with every agent in town. I just need a good handful that completely get it, that know how to sell it, and trust me completely. And that's huge to be able to have those kind of relationships. So that's where I start. My job is not to necessarily convince everybody. It's not always going to happen. But starting with that strategic relationship and then the way that we present ourselves. So when I put together a quote, I'm talking about the property details. I talk about who the target buyer is. I talk about what our staging plan is in a very general term for the client. And then I'm also including just some fantastic stats. And so between my presentation and my agent's presentation, we usually get about 90 to 95% of the quotes that we put out.
That's amazing. That's an amazing stat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because I've really worked hard on making our presentation equivalent to what our staging is. And that's key, I think, is to start with how am I presenting my business? Because, we're in the presentation business. It's fantastic that I can do a great job with homes, but it's not fantastic if I can't sell myself. And so to focus on my presentation, I'm making sure that when I'm showing up, that I'm dressed. And it could be jeans, but I'm dressed nicely, it could be casual, but I'm pulled together. I'm not showing up in sweats and a t-shirt and, a ball cap kind of thing, because then I don't look professional and people won't believe me. So by making sure that my presentation is pulled together, then it's a much easier sell.
I think that's a really good advice for any new stagers who are listening right now. And I know that because your business has been quite big, so now you have furniture rental, you have design work, you do you do not only home staging, but you do design work as well, and you do furniture rental for real estate agents and stagers and anyone who wants to rent it. So is your warehouse pretty much always full? How do you manage and maintain all of your inventory?
Oh, yes, the warehouse tends to be full. We use Stageforce as our inventory management software. And I will tell you that this has completely revolutionized the way we do business. I'm probably like most stagers, where you would tag the items that you're working on for a project with some painter's tape. You'd mark it and you'd make a list, and inevitably something would get left, because we're real professional. But there was no way to manage inventory effectively. There were some other inventory management software companies that I had explored and I actually had signed up for, but I never utilized because they were clunky and awkward. And when Stageforce came around, it completely changed our world. We were able to upload photos and do stock images and really have a good idea of what we owned. And that was part of my problem too, was not knowing exactly what we owned. Our inventory went from being able to know what every single piece that we had in a house. I know exactly where it was. Everything had a name. So, I could differentiate between which of the 12 beige sofas I was talking about. So everything had its own name and I could roll it off at the top of my head. Well, as business starts to grow, there's just no way you can keep up with it all. And so to have Stageforce in our world changes everything. No longer do we have to walk the warehouse and try and put a plan together. It's literally from our computers, whether that's at home, whether that's on the road, it doesn't matter. And now I can pull together a house. If I'm doing the selections, I could do something in 20 minutes and it's done. And it just has saved us so much time. And I can look up at any time and tell you where any piece of furniture is, whether it's in a house, whether it's in the warehouse. And it is so freeing. And I feel like I've got that part of the business under control, because now I can start pulling reports together, and I can figure out which inventory is making us money and what is not. So if it's not making us money, we're getting it out. We're going to sell it. We're going to get rid of it because it's taking up too much valuable space. And I'd rather take that money and put it into something that's going to make us money.
That sounds amazing. That sounds great. And how do you usually shop for inventory, and how often do you retire and buy new inventory?
So we're going to market 3 or 4 times a year, and that's where I'm doing a lot of my major shopping. I'm going to High Point, North Carolina, and then I'm also doing the Las Vegas show. And I'm keeping stuff in inventory usually as long as it's in great shape and it's still in style. I like to do warehouse sales, and we'll do those maybe once or twice a year just to push through some old inventory. I'm also turning inventory when I'm doing Airbnbs. So we're starting to pick up in that world. Airbnbs are really hot in Nashville right now because we have a huge hotel room shortage. And it's crazy enough that a hotel room in Nashville is more expensive than a hotel room in in New York. So the prices of the hotels are super, super high. And so there has been a huge rush of Airbnbs happening. And we've had just a fun time starting to work with those and design those. And those tend to be great options because those clients they're dropping $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on furnishings for a property, and they want to save some money. So it ends up being a good deal when I say, hey, I've had this in my inventory. Maybe it's a couple years old and it's a little beat up and it's just not quite at the standards that we want it, but I can sell it to you for a good price. And they tend to jump on it. So it saves them a tremendous amount of money, and it works out well for me because I make money, and then I get to save them money as well.
That's really smart. I love you have different ways of cultivating different streams of income. And I think that's something probably every business owner needs to strive for, because especially in our type of work, there is going to be slow season where there's not a lot of jobs happening. And so it's really important to be able to save up, to be able to, especially if you have employees, because they still need to get paid when the business is slow. So I think that's incredibly smart.
Yes, and I didn't start that way. So when we first started, and I got out of the redesign side of it, and I moved towards the vacants, I was really foolish, and I put all my eggs in one basket. And my main client was that small builder who's building 3 or 4 homes a year. And when our market crashed, they are telling me, hey, I love what you do, but I can't justify spending the money because nobody is coming through. So I'm losing all this business, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How are we going to survive? So I had to think of other ways that I could utilize this furniture. And we're very blessed here in Nashville. We've got a lot of activity that goes on and a lot of production. So there's TV shows out the wazoo. There's videos and commercials that are being shot. So there's a lot of opportunity with that. We work with production companies on television, and then we work with some other production companies doing commercials. We've even styled, this is crazy, a sour cream commercial. Like, who would have ever thought that? But hey, it was a great opportunity to make some money, and we jumped on it.
That's awesome. I love it. Yay.
Well, I feel like if you stay in one lane and you only have one source of income, what happens when that goes away? And it will go away at some point. Something's going to happen. Something's going to change. So in order to lessen the risk, I have to branch out. I still stay within my lane, but there's other ways to cultivate income doing what we do. I don't have to just stage vacant properties. I can stage commercial lobbies. I can do Airbnbs, anything like that. It's still staying in my lane. It's just in a little different world. That's all.
That's great. And so are you staging Airbnb now then?
Yes, we do some of those as well.
And how is that different than staging a normal house? I assume process is probably very similar.
Process is very similar, except the client's approving everything. And then the challenge too is it's doing things such as completely stocking the kitchen, which is outside of our realm of traditional staging. So it's getting all of those little things included in the package. And then things like when you're doing Airbnbs, the whole goal is to get a positive review. Because you get positive reviews, people are going to want to stay there. So how do I get these positive reviews for my clients? We're doing things like we're putting feather beds on top of the mattresses so that it feels like luxury. We will do, it could be robes that are included in the master bedroom. So you've got that luxury feel. It's doing little things like that you can set your unit apart from all of the others. And that's what we're trying to do, is always make it feel luxurious and get those positive reviews for our clients. Because then they're going to be calling us again when they've got more Airbnbs. Because what's happening here in Nashville is a lot of these builders, they'll build some new properties and then they'll hold on to them for a couple years as an Airbnb, and then they turn them and sell them. So that builder needs to keep that property full. And so that's my job, is to make sure that we can get them positive reviews so it does stay full.
I feel like you brought a really good point, which is that little details that really set you apart. Because I think you kind of went one step and beyond and think for the client. It's like, how can they keep their property always booked for on Airbnb? And I think that's a really important way to differentiate yourself with other stagers in the market, probably, because that extra attention to the details.
Absolutely. Well, it's because I love to travel. I'm always in a hotel, and I love a nice hotel room. Like, I will tell you, I will admit I am a hotel snob, and it is okay. I have completely embraced it. But there's a reason why I like nice hotel rooms, and it's because the beds are always white, which I love. They're always comfortable. And that hotel staff always goes out of their way to make me feel like I'm their only guest, and they make me feel like a rock star. So how can I make other people feel that way when they come to our properties? And it's paying attention to those little things. It makes all the difference in the world. I will stay at Airbnbs, and I realize, boy, it would be nice to have a USB plug next to the bed so I can plug in my phone. Like, how awesome would that be? Easy. So we make sure that we get those kinds of plugs, because that's what people need. So I'm always thinking about, what would I want to be comfortable and to feel like I'm in a really luxurious place? So let's transfer my wants, because I'm the buyer here. So now, as the seller, how can I give the buyer what they want?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because I think, because I personally stay at a lot of Airbnbs. I think I've stayed probably a couple hundreds in the past few years. And I do travel a lot as well. So I stay in both hotels and Airbnbs quite often. And a lot of times I find that a lot of Airbnb hosts say they want to be more personable. They want it to be, make you feel more welcome, but actually they're not really listening what the potential clients want. For example, if I am the person who wants to book the entire unit by myself, I probably don't want to be bothered, right? That's why I'm not sharing a room with someone else. And that means I don't really need you to come over all the time to check up on me, right? Because I want privacy. Right. That's why I book a single room by myself. And like you said, those little details really elevate the differences, how you feel and how you experience things. And I think that's why a lot of times stagers ask me, it's like, I don't understand, like, how can I stand out from, the other stagers who are maybe more experienced or who are cheaper, yada, yada, yada. But they really don't think about how their clients want to be catered to. A lot of time it's communication, it's asking questions, it's observing and listening. And I think that's really important when it comes to selling house as well. A lot of sellers, they may do the staging themselves, which is fine. If you don't have a stager in your market, or if you don't have assets, financial means to a stager, that's fine. Do it yourself. But the thing is, you really need to do the homework on who's buying into your neighborhood. Because a lot of times I feel like sellers are doing things that they thought the buyers would like, but actually are not what the buyers like. And then so they turn the buyers off and they turn them away.
I totally agree. And that's why it's important to have a professional come in and do it. It's a huge difference when you have somebody who knows neighborhoods and who knows what those buyers want. That's our job as home stagers. We have to know the demographic of the neighborhood. We have to know who that buyer is. That's where we have to start, because if we don't, there is no way that we can connect with that buyer. And we have a much better shot of selling that house quickly and for the maximum value if we can speak their language, and giving them those special moments, those little details that make such a huge difference. It's when somebody walks in and they go, oh my gosh, this house, this is for me. This is it. Because there's everything that's very subconscious where the house just speaks to them. And to be able to pull that out and to show the buyer that this is the place for you. As a seller, you've won. And that's our job, is to help these sellers win.
Yeah. And I can't believe time flies by so fast. It's like an hour since we've been talking. So I just have one last question for you. Now we're coming in the hot season now. So what is your number one tip for home sellers who are about to list their homes for sale?
I would say my number one tip would be know who you're going to sell it to. And that generally is who you were when you bought the house. If you were a young family or you were a first-time home buyer, you remember how scary it was, how exciting it was, how the need to feel like it was your own place. You need to be able to speak that buyer's language, and so that you really can communicate with them, and that house, let the house speak, and that's really the fun part about it.
Cool. Thank you so much. I can't believe it went by so fast, because I think we barely went through any questions on the overview.
I feel like we barely just scratched the surface. I know. I could talk about this stuff for hours. I just get so fired up about it. And, I've lived it for the last 12 years, as you have too. It's pretty exciting. It's pretty fun. And I'm really, really excited about where this industry is going in the next 10, 20 years. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah, same here. And I know you're super busy, so I'm really appreciate you coming on the show. If you are game, I would totally love to do another episode. Since it just went by so fast, I can't believe it.
I know, absolutely. I would absolutely love that. Yes, let's do a part 2.
Okay, awesome. I'll shoot you an email. And thank you again, and have a really great week. We'll talk soon.
I hope you do as well. We'll talk to you soon, Cindy. Thank you.
So that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help and support the show, there are 3 ways to do so. You can leave a review and rating on iTunes. You can share the show on social media, or you can donate to support the maintaining costs for the podcast. You can make a donation through the show notes or on the sidebar of our site. If you haven't left a review on iTunes, please do so. This will help us grow the show and book more guests. If you have any questions, feedback, and suggestions, you can comment on the show notes. You can also find the show notes by going to stagemore.com/podcast. That's it. Have a fantastic week and happy staging.